Because none of this happens if when Rollins' music hit, Punk did not truly emote the emotions of someone who had really fought through hell and realized right when you get to the mountaintop that you're already on the descent downward.
It comes down to that look from CM Punk where he's at the mountaintop, he has nothing left, and that music hits and he knows Seth's gonna come out and push him off the mountain, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Welcome to the Lariat Lounge. This is the home of smart takes, hard hits, and real talk. I'm your host, Everson Godfrey, co-host Andrew Skeens. As always, Skeener, what a event-filled weekend the Lariat Lounge had this weekend. I mean, we had Smackdown on Friday. We live streamed SummerSlam both nights. We've got Monday Night Raw to talk about. We also got wonderful news that Seth Rollins' faction has a name now. I can hardly believe it. That blew my mind that we finally got there after how long? Yeah, I've been waiting for it for a long time.
Let's see. WrestleMania was mid-April. It's now mid-August. So May, June, July, 4 months.
Dude, I think that's a record. I think that's a record for the longest that a established faction has been nameless in wrestling history. I think it's a first.
I'm sure it's up there.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe one or two times we're missing, but it's definitely out of the norm for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But folks, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously the PLE, obviously the outcome of certain matches, two in particular in my mind, one that totally blew my mind and another that blew my mind in a slightly different way. I've had some time to, let the rotisserie spit go around a few different times on it. And I wanted to say something about it to you yesterday. I almost called you. But I said, you know what? Let's save it.
So you're that torn up that the Wyatt Six retained.
Dude, I am destroyed that the Wyatt Six retained. Man. I am destroyed.
Sounds like it. You were going to call me about it.
Yeah, I was going to call you. I was going to call you about that. And then I remember that was not important to me at all because the tag team division has not been made important at all. But no, we will definitely get into it. I don't know what point in the show, but we're just going to freestyle this thing today. Skeener, please let our friends here in the lounge know where they can listen to us, where they can catch all of the coolest polls and posts that the Lariat Lounge puts up, and even some future endeavors that we talked about on the live stream, that we talked about on another podcast, and that I will probably mention after you talk about where they can listen.
Getting me all worked up and talking to me about future endeavors. I'm hoping you're not future endeavoring me. But
absolutely not.
As you know, we are over on Instagram at the Lariat Lounge Podcast. We're throwing up stories. You can keep up with when new episodes drop, get involved with the show, get involved with the polls, answer the questions. DMs are always open. You know the doors of the lounge are always open. You can also reach out to us at the Lariat Lounge at gmail.com. If social media is not your thing, you can always send us an email there. And as you know, we're coming at you once a week, at least every week, on all your favorite podcast platforms, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcast. That's how you keep up and join in the lounge.
Absolutely, guys. And listen, we also have a second endeavor that started this weekend, and I want to let you know a little bit about it. So this was born out of necessity because we wanted to live stream with you all for both nights of SummerSlam. And when I went to go set up the live stream through the Lariat Lounge YouTube channel, which is where you can listen to the podcast via YouTube, they put me on a 24-hour hold until we could live stream. Now, apparently, that is the rule. I didn't know about that rule. So when I went to go set up the live stream, it told me you got to wait 24 hours. That would have required us to miss the entire night one of SummerSlam. That was just a no-go. So I've been on YouTube before. I had a previous channel that I used to do gaming on, and I repurposed that channel and I gave it a different name because I couldn't use the same name and confuse everyone. So the name that I came up with was Lariat Lounge Live. We went on for the first night. I decided I'd keep it there because we used it for the first night and the reception and the turnout was pretty good. So we left it up there. And then Skeena and I talked about it. You can listen to that actually in the video on demand for night one stream. But Lariat Lounge Live is the place to go if you want to catch Skeena and I covering live every PLE. We're going to be catching up with you guys every so often whenever they do these PLEs, and we're going to be live for them. We're going to be live streaming. Skeena and I are going to be hanging out. We're going to be Ninja Turtling that thing, eating pizza and snacks. And we're going to be chatting with people because we had such a great time at the party of the summer that we want to continue to connect with you all in a more intimate fashion. And what better way to do that than to do it live? Skeena, did you have a good time over the weekend?
I had an absolute blast. I can't remember the last time I had that much fun watching a PLE that I wasn't fortunate enough to go to.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think a lot of people, or at least in my situation, that if my wife is not there and she's working or something, which is a lot of the time,
sure,
she's working, I'm watching these PLEs by myself. And yeah, you can text people and you have people, but sometimes that solitary viewing experience cannot hold a candle to being there in a group, in a community, reacting with someone else, be it seeing them on video, seeing them in the chat. It brings everything to a whole new level. And the communal viewing experience in wrestling just makes it so much better, in my opinion. So,
I agree.
Come hop in the lounge. The more people, the better. The more voices we have in there. We're going to do it every PLE to start with. May expand it in the future, but already looking forward to the next one we get.
Yeah. And that's not too far down the line, right? I think it's what, Clash in Paris?
Yep. Clash in Paris, end of this month, beginning of next month, something like that. Not too far away.
So set your
3-4
calendars
weeks or something.
Set your calendars. Go ahead and get your pizza order together, and let's all grab a slice and sit down and watch Clash in Paris together because it's gonna be fun. And if you didn't find a PLE to be as enticing as you'd like it to be, which sometimes the match cards can hit or miss with you sometimes, come and hang out with us. It's so much more fun to just get up with some good friends and watch the thing that we all love to watch, which is professional wrestling, and those superstars do what it is that they do. Also, we were talking to George Cruz yesterday, and I think this was before you came on the podcast. So we get up with our friends at Ring Rust Radio every so often, and we do some podcasting with them on some of their special episodes. And a good friend of that show and a good friend of ours, George Cruz, was in the pod yesterday. And he was talking with me about merch. And I had told him that I was interested in looking into some merch. And I believe he might have had a conversation with you. I think that's what he said.
He was wanting to know when the merch was coming.
Okay, that's what he said. That's what he said. So yeah, we were talking about it yesterday, and I told him that he and I could definitely have a conversation. So if you have his info, Skeen, I'll get it from you later.
Okay.
Yeah, we are probably going to be working on getting some Lariat Lounge merch relatively soon. So if I'm not mistaken, we'll get that stuff set up. It'll probably be on ProWrestlingTees.com. So just stay tuned to the podcast for updates on that because we'll be working on it. I would love to see you guys send some pics through the Instagram, family-friendly pics, because this is a family-friendly show. Please put pants on if it's shirts. But I'd love to see your pics of you in your Lariat Lounge gear. That would warm Skeena and I's heart to no end. So that is going to be something upcoming. But yeah, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this show because there are some things that we need to talk about, friends. So enough with the fluff. Let's get to the stuff. Oh, Skeena. So where do we want to start? Because there are two things that I really wanted to talk with you about. And one of them, in my opinion, was absolutely incredible. The other was very much unexpected and is probably going to be the conversation that a lot of people will be having for, at the very least, the next couple weeks. Well, actually, they'll both be talked about a lot because they're both freaking awesome. But one of them is obviously CM Punk becoming the World Heavyweight Champion and not walking out of SummerSlam with it, because Seth freaking Rollins, who was never injured, cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase as soon as Mr. Punk defeated Gunther and finally became a champion again with tears in his eyes and a smile in his heart. Heard "Burn It Down" and realized in that moment he was screwed. And Seth Rollins came out with the fake out, but then showed his true colors, that he wasn't hurt, cashed in, and wins the World Heavyweight Championship. Or we could talk about John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. And after a long, hard-fought battle that was slightly overbooked, and Cody literally dismantling the ring in an attempt to hurt John, ends up beating John Cena, becoming the WWE champion again. And as John is standing in the ring collecting his flowers for his last SummerSlam, Brock Lesnar's music hits. Brock Lesnar is back. He comes to the ring. He drops Cena with an F5. And now we've got the next stop on the Cena tour mapped out. MapQuest has told us that we're headed to Suplex City. Skeena, where would you like to start, sir?
I think we held off and in a way buried the lead with our Hogan talk. I don't think there's a reason to bury the lead here. Let's talk about what is the bigger story, which is Brock Lesnar's back. Brock Lesnar is back. A few weeks after it was reported that he is not coming back anytime soon, that he is persona non grata still, and then, here comes the pain. So let's go ahead and dive in, and you lead us off.
Okay. So Brock Lesnar's music hits. Obviously, that guitar riff is iconic. So it's impossible to miss. If you're a wrestling fan, you knew it was Lesnar. I think there wasn't a person. Well, actually, you know what? So, Skeena, when we were talking during the live stream, we were very clear about the fact that this was not on anyone's bingo card. And in fact, I've heard that said so much in so many reactions that I'm almost tired of saying it myself. Just that phrase, that it wasn't on my bingo card. But no, it wasn't. I don't think there were a lot of people who were thinking that. Now, it's funny because I was listening to Ring Rust the other day, right? This was after SummerSlam. And I was listening to the latest episode. And ironically, Donnie dropped that. He dropped that before SummerSlam.
In what I believe was probably...
I don't disagree. I think it was a joke.
I think it was a genuine prediction.
No, I agree. I think it was genuinely a joke. But it was just so funny that he landed on that joke, and you could have easily laughed it off at the time. Like, that's not happening, of course. And then here comes Lesnar. I don't think there's...
And we discussed it on the live stream night 2, but night 1 in the live stream, we were talking about, when does Brock come back? Does he ever come back?
I was convinced he'd never come back.
With no inclination in the slightest that at that point we were 24 hours or less away from him coming back.
Absolutely not.
So it's just, they pulled out another moment.
Yeah.
In a night after they pulled out a big one the night before. They managed to, I think, top it, at least in terms of out of nowhere, unexpected.
I will give you that. I definitely think that they topped it with regards to out of nowhere. I think just from what I have observed, however, fan reaction is very mixed. It's very mixed with regards to why Brock Lesnar is back, why WWE opted for Lesnar. I can understand, and let me just go ahead and get these points out of the way, right? And we said some of this on the live stream. I get it from the perspective that if you're going to play the hits for Cena with regards to his iconic feuds, you obviously Lesnar is one of them. It makes perfect sense from that perspective. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a good match, hopefully. I think for me...
when's the last time Brock had a bad one? I don't think he's had many bad ones.
No, and I think he's earned some equity with regards to how he performs in the ring because he can do a lot. I think there was a time when he was really just kind of suplex city all day. And to me, those matches kind of were, it was the instance where it's like someone running headlong into a brick wall. It's hard to turn away because the car crash is captivating, but it's just a car crash. Now, I think he pivoted away from that a bit and he began to show a little bit more dimension wise, particularly when we're not billing Brock Lesnar as the top guy. And he can sell. I think the people who always had criticism for Lesnar and that he couldn't sell, I think those criticisms weren't really founded because he can sell. And for the right people, he will sell very well. So I will give him credit with that. And I honestly, at this point, I don't have a lot of criticism with regards to Brock Lesnar as a performer in the ring. However, is he good? Like, that's the question that I have. Has he been cleared of the things that he allegedly has done? Because, mind you, ain't nobody guilty of anything until they're guilty. You are innocent until proven otherwise.
Well, so let's go ahead and define cleared and define what he has done, allegedly. Because I think there's a lot of confusion on his alleged involvement in things that are still, allegations in a complaint levied at Vince McMahon.
Okay.
So we're going to get into it. Let's get into it.
Okay, so let me start by prefacing this. Two things. One, I'm not an expert in this. I never claimed to be, and I'm not claiming to be now. Two, I'm basing my feelings on this only on the standard that WWE themselves set for themselves, okay? This is not me. This is WWE, okay? They've distanced themselves from Velveteen Dream. They've distanced themselves from Vince, right? Now, with the Velveteen Dream, those were some allegations that were made, but I don't know what the outcome of any of that stuff was. I don't know if he was guilty of the things.
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. I mean, nothing. Look, and that's a little different because that played out outside of any legal process. So, I mean, you'll probably no one will ever be satisfied with the answer because there was never a question asked in a sense. So,
you talking about with regard to Velveteen Dream?
Yes. So nothing came of it legally, be it criminal or civil.
Right.
And I think some of the allegations were, we always got to be careful when we handle this.
Of course.
We're found to be a little specious.
Sure.
And maybe overblown. It's just, this is a touchy thing.
Of course.
But I think it's easier to get rid of someone who, despite having, at least I thought, all the potential in the world, was not a household name big star, that if Velveteen Dream walks out at SummerSlam, roof's not blowing off like it did on Sunday.
Sure.
And also anything that starts involving any claims of anyone underage is going to be treated differently, I think.
Okay.
So you have that.
So I understand that, right? But with that being said, though, right, to me, that is not justification for a two-tier judgment system. That's not justification for a two-tier judgment system. Just because Brock Lesnar is a household name doesn't mean that WWE, let me rephrase, it doesn't mean that the fans who are critical or concerned or curious or would want to know more are out of pocket because you're judging these situations differently based on who's involved. Like, I get what you're saying. When you're dealing with anything, dealing with underage people, it's going to take a particular type of tone with people. It's going to sit a certain type of way with people. But the things that Lesnar has been alleged of doing in a company with Vince, right? This is also nothing to sneeze at. These are real people's lives that are involved. And when I say cleared, I'm not speaking from the legal sense because I don't know where that court case is with Janelle Grant. I don't know where that stuff is. It's been kind of hush-hush as of late as far as any type of updates to that. But has WWE cleared Lesnar? Like, to not speak of it is not to clear someone of it. And I think that we as fans, I think we're justified in being a bit mystified with why you'd bring back Lesnar. For one, you don't need him. The roster at WWE is more stacked than it's ever been, right? I think you and I can both agree with that. The roster is loaded. There are tons of people that you can put in a position up against Cena in the remaining few months that he's got. If Lesnar never made his return at SummerSlam, nobody would have missed Lesnar at SummerSlam, because like you and I and like everybody else on the internet said, nobody had him on their bingo card. Nobody was counting on it. We were more likely to think we were going to see The Rock again than Brock Lesnar.
Travis Scott was on my bingo card, not Brock Lesnar. So.
Point made, right? So I don't think he would have been missed, because I think we all would have understood why WWE was kind of distancing themselves from Brock Lesnar. So him showing up, I can understand, and this is me trying to be magnanimous and understanding. I can understand why some people are just happy to see Brock back. If all that you care about is the match cards that are laid in front of you, okay, fair enough. I'm not going to judge you. I think differently, but I'm not going to judge. But I also think that ye should not also then judge others who have an issue with it. People who feel like, why would you go this route? If they feel some kind of way about it, they should be offered the same level of grace that others are for just being happy to see Lesnar back. And I don't think anybody is dismissing the potential claims that are surrounding Brock and Vince. Nobody is. Even the people who are happy to see Brock back. But I don't think that the people who may have criticism about it are wrong for having those criticisms. And I think that you're seeing that discord playing itself out online right now, because it seems to be pretty split. There are people who are excited to see Brock back, and there are people who are wondering why Brock is back. And I think I'm on the latter of that. I think the match is going to be good. But I mean, for me, bro, there are so many things that are just in concert happening right now that, for all of my love that I have for WWE, and I got a lot of it, they're the most corporate they have ever been. And some of these things show themselves in ways that just, I hate that I have to not like it, because you've earned so much goodwill with me, and I love the company, I love the brand, I love the product, and I love pro wrestling, right? But then there are certain things that just as a person, man, it don't sit well with me, right? The fact that we're doing so many things in Saudi now, it's like you're just really cool with taking all that Saudi money now. Like, it's nothing. Royal Rumble's going to Saudi, right? You know, put aside your political beliefs, because that's not really super relevant to the argument. But in light of all the things that are surrounding our current president in the news, all of the allegations, all the stuff surrounding him, the fact that WWE has no problem putting Triple H right next to the president with all the things, I would think you'd want to maybe distance yourself from some of that stuff. Why get tied into that conversation? But yet you have. I guess the photo op was far more important to you than what some people may think that photo op represents. And then Lesnar coming back, right? It's just another instance where it's like, why would you do that? I don't quite understand it, right? And then you're constantly releasing people. You're constantly releasing more people. But yet, like you told me right before we went on air, ESPN's new streaming service is going to be taking over PLEs in 2026. So, I mean, are we being put in a position where it's like we're going to have to pay for every PLE separate from what we're already paying on Netflix or Peacock? Like, I'm trying to understand, is WWE, you know what? I ain't going to get off on a tangent. Please, sir, what is it that you think about Brock Lesnar?
So there's a lot to answer for here, or a lot to not answer for, but a lot you brought up I'd like to address.
Sure.
While it's on my mind, I will say I don't think the ESPN thing, at least as far as I read it, it will be a flat monthly cost for this new ESPN direct-to-consumer streaming service that I believe, as I read it, will replace ESPN Plus, which also makes me think it probably will be rolled in somehow to what you can do now, which is bundle Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there. And that the PLEs will not be a separate pay-per-view like the UFC, that they'll be broadcast the way they are now on Peacock or Netflix, depending on where you are, for free once you have that streaming service.
Okay.
So this will be more of like I don't know. I don't really know. I don't have.
It'll be another bill.
But that's how, yeah. Or at the very least, maybe a small increase to the one you have now.
Sure.
But where you can all cancel fees. So.
Well, yeah. Well, that could be something.
So Brock Lesnar. Why is Brock Lesnar back? You're right. You didn't need him, but at least to me, things are better with Brock Lesnar. Like,
okay,
that's one of the biggest stars in the history of wrestling that went outside of wrestling and became a giant star and came back. He has name value. Everyone heard the pop on Sunday. You see the buzz it generates. The simple answer is, why is he back? And, this may not be a satisfying answer to some, is because him being there provides more benefit and more money to the company than the negatives will cost them, probably by a gigantic margin. And that's the way it is. This is a hugely corporate enterprise now that's based on making money. If they thought this decision would harm them, I don't think they'd have done it. But they've judged through whatever metrics that, it's going to help a lot more than it hurt. And I agree with that assessment. There is, there's that is, why would you do it knowing there will be some amount of back? It's because the benefits will outweigh the negatives. I don't think it goes much deeper than that. Addressing the backlash. I'm not going to begrudge anyone that genuinely wants to feel some type of way over this. I, as noted, more than you, get more upset when it seemingly comes from a disingenuous place. And I get that I get your position, and it's a more admirable position than the one I take, which is, despite who brings up the conversation and how they bring it, if it's a valid conversation to have, it's valid. I'm not that good of a person. If you're disingenuous about it, you can take a hike, in my book. And I think there's a lot of that because, again, touchy subject. The things Brock Lesnar has been accused of in a complaint, which in the legal world is a set of unproven allegations. That's what complaints are. You can file a complaint, you can say anything you want. And this is, maybe colored by my experience within the legal profession. For anyone that doesn't know, new listeners, I was an attorney. I practiced law for about 7 years. So I have some experience dealing with. Nothing will ever read, look, or seem more heinous, reprehensible, anything like that, any adjectives you want to use, than when it is described in that plaintiff's complaint. Because that's what the adversarial process is supposed to. It's supposed to be, they're going to put on their case, one side's going to put on their case, make it look as good as it possibly can. Other side's going to make that case look as bad as it possibly can. And then people are going to make a decision about it. So I weigh all of this through that, knowing that just purely based on how our system's set up, allegations in a complaint are meant to be explosive, draw a reaction, draw a visceral reaction, all that. That said, I do think everyone should, just for the good of themselves and your view on this situation, you should educate yourself. That complaint's available. Go look, make your decision there. But make sure you know who is being accused of what, by whom, and what conceivably and allegedly happened. I'll say that. That's my piece.
Yeah.
But, it goes back to, I'm happy Brock Lesnar. I like Brock Lesnar. For better or worse, I've made my judgment based on what is in the complaint, what I take out of it. Is my judgment infallible and the best? No, but it's mine, and I'm at least at the point in my life where I'm secure that I have a judgment and I'm not going to worry as much about outside noise and how that's perceived. And I think we also need to weigh that internet discourse is loudest on the internet, that there is a vast majority probably of people that are going to watch WWE that, for better or worse, right or wrong, probably don't know anything about this law and aren't going to have that adverse reaction to Brock Lesnar that some do because of his naming in this complaint, this salacious complaint. And again, I don't begrudge anyone for having that judgment, but I think that, again, you're asking why is he back? That segment is much smaller than I think some would think. They can be loud, they can affect change. Doesn't mean they're wrong because they're small, but it's smaller. It just is. And, make your decision. Have your thought. I just wish people would stand on them and to the best of their ability, because we will all be biased.
Sure.
No matter the person that tries to be unbiased. If you think you're unbiased, you're not.
Sure, of course.
No one is. No one is. And so I almost hate pretending I'm unbiased. But I'll just go ahead and say, if I was that affected by what Brock Lesnar is accused of doing and it turned me off watching him, I could not watch it. Definitely couldn't have watched it in the past. That's just the way it is. And
sure.
I'm not condoning any actions Brock Lesnar has taken outside the ring, but at the end of the day, this is a TV show I watch to be entertained. Is that the most morally responsible thing to do, that I can shrug my shoulders at this and just enjoy the entertainment? Of course not. Of course not. And, it's more admirable and takes a stronger person than me to stand on your morals and take that stand. But I'm going to watch the wrestling and enjoy the wrestling. And nothing he's been accused of rises to the level, to me, that's going to make me stop doing that, for better or worse. And I'm not going to shy away from that.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And listen, I appreciate your commentary, and I appreciate your candor and your standpoint. I am definitely someone who does not believe in, I do not believe in guilty until proven innocent, right? I believe that, things that are alleged should be looked into credibly, and it's like, if they're proven true, they're proven true. If they're proven false, they're proven false. And it is what it is. My issue sometimes with situations like this, Skeens, is a perceived double standard. Don't stand on the position of any type of moral high ground and then pick and choose your morality. We were talking about Velveteen Dream earlier. His level of stardom shouldn't play a role in anything. He was released from the company on the allegation.
And not just Velveteen Dream, Enzo Amore too.
And I forgot about that too. Yeah,
did end up being actually cleared.
Sure.
After a legal investigation. Now, if anyone wants to play gotcha, I do not know that for a fact, but that is my recollection.
Yeah.
Is that Enzo actually had a possible criminal proceeding that may have happened and was looked into and was not ever charged.
Here's my thing, right? Here's my thing, right? I don't necessarily believe myself to be a person that has to agree with your methodology on everything. I'm just asking for you to be consistent, right? If they released Velveteen Dream around these allegations because any company really doesn't want to be around something that's super hot in that way, okay, I can understand that from a company standpoint. If after this whole situation cooled off, I may not necessarily agree with the fact that the company takes a position that we're going to take a step away from you until this whole thing just dies down a little bit, right? And then once it dies down a little bit and hopefully people will forget, then we'll bring you back because we like you and want to have you here. I may not agree with that, but if you treat one person the same way you treat the next person, the same way you treat the next person, at least I can't look at you and think you're being selective in your moral outrage and your moral stance. At least you're being even across the board with how you handle things. And that's just the way you do business. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened with Velveteen Dream. That's not what happened with Enzo Amore, right? They stepped away from Brock when all this stuff came out. It seemed like that's how WWE handled business, right? But now Brock is back. So if the idea is that this is cooled off enough to where the conversation around Brock is that these things were brought up in a case against Vince McMahon, and that this is cooled off enough to where we feel comfortable bringing Brock back, then are we comfortable bringing back Velveteen Dream? Are we comfortable with offering Enzo Amore a spot back? Now, whether or not they want to have them back because they feel like they fit within the roster or they have an idea for these people, that's something entirely different. But if somebody were to say something like, we feel like enough time has passed with this Janelle Grant case and nothing has come up that has really made us feel like Brock Lesnar is a person of concern within the company, and we're okay with having him here, then at least that sets some sort of precedent that I can look at when you look at other people. And maybe I can judge you not wanting to bring them back off of some other things. But this does not, in my opinion, make me not want to watch the product. I can appreciate wrestling for what wrestling is, but I'm also not that type of person that just because I enjoy the product, that I am someone who feels like this conversation that you and I are having, and hopefully other people are having too, right, is not a conversation that needs to happen. I'm a fan of professional wrestling and the history of professional wrestling, but that conversation about Hogan needed to happen. I'm a fan of Charlotte Flair. I'm a fan of women's wrestling, but that conversation you and I had about Charlotte Flair needed to happen. And I think more people need to have these conversations, right, where they can sit down and be civil with one another, right, and have a conversation where maybe they don't agree on everything. But you can talk about these things and have a civil discourse and maybe come to an understanding, not that we will ever have to agree, but that you understand where someone's coming from, right? So that the color and timbre of conversations can change. Because I do think that even the person who is cynical, right? And this is the basis of my position with a lot of things, right? Even the person that's cynical is coming from a place where what they believe they're seeing doesn't ring as right or true or just in their mind in some way. How they're approaching it can definitely make it less palatable, right? And I can understand where you can have a position where you feel like it's not coming from a position of good faith. But sometimes for me, I question then, what does good faith mean to you? Does good faith mean that someone is coming from a place that emotionally resonates with the place that you come from? Because some people will feel like it's disingenuous to like criticize WWE in a mocking fashion because they're doing X, Y, or Z, right? But if someone were to, if someone were to come at a subject matter like the passing of Hulk Hogan, and they're not coming from a place of reverence and a fondness in their memories of the childhood memories that were garnered by watching Hogan as a kid, if they were much more affected by the person that Terry Bollea was, right? And they have a very difficult time separating those two things. And if we don't hear that backstory, maybe they can sound like, some of our friends on other podcasts. I don't want to say their names because I respect them. But, there are other people who we've talked to on other podcasts who have just been kind of like, fuck Hogan. And it's like, does someone look at their position as being disingenuous because they say fuck Hogan? Those things landed with them. The things that he did landed with them, maybe more than it landed with others, right? Their view is one that has no love for Hulk Hogan whatsoever, right? Does that mean that their position is disingenuous, or that they're coming at this from a cynical standpoint if they're saying, wow, wait for WWE to put a racist, on in such a reverent light when he passed, right? Because there are some people who really were emotional with Hogan's passing. And I get it. I get it from both sides. If someone was saying things about Hogan that were not true and using that as a linchpin for the criticism in their criticism, I think I would feel more like, okay, this here is bad faith. There's no truth to anything that you're saying. And you're just taking this situation as an opportunity to tear down Hogan, to tear down WWE. And it's not rooted in anything that has any type of truth to it whatsoever. But if WWE dug this hole that they then step in, it's like, I don't know. I could understand either way if they're just like, man, I feel bad for WWE for twisting their ankle in this hole. And some people for being like, stupid, you dug the hole. I'm not upset that you twisted your ankle. That was dumb. But what do you think?
So it almost, for me, when I'm talking about and calling some of the folks and some of the criticism of this, calling it disingenuous, it comes back to almost exactly what some of your beef with WWE was. Was it the selective enforcement of these seemingly, moral tentpoles, these people,
Okay.
where I see them, be it normal fans or members of the quote unquote wrestling media, and I hate that term, journalists hate that term, not fucking journalists. Like, we're all fan fiction bloggers, essentially. Like, let's keep it in perspective here. But when the things that Brock Lesnar is accused of are what they are, and let me just use an example where a certain well-known figure in this wrestling sphere goes and says, well, yeah, WWE is sleazy. They're going to do sleazy things. What do you expect? And other companies employ currently people accused of far more, in my opinion, and should be in anyone's opinion, far more heinous thing. And there's silence. And I don't hear a certain person urging fans to call sponsors of other companies and let them know how upset you are. That's the disingenuity, if that's a word, that I am talking about.
I hear you.
That just makes me, it's like, come on. And it distracts from the real conversation that needs to be had. Before we move on, because we don't want to eat up, because everyone, I'm sure, played out this discourse 100 times.
Sure.
But we had to get our 2 cents in.
Of course.
We had to get our shit in, as they say in the business. But the two prongs on the essentially selective enforcement that you talked about. And
sure.
that is a legitimate concern, and I applaud you for bringing it up within all of this, because it's easy to miss that, because we do have cases like Velveteen Dream and stuff. And one, it simply comes down to the fact that that's just the way it's going to be in the business of professional wrestling. In any business world, you're a bigger star, you make more money, you're going to get away with more stuff. Should it be that way? No, probably not. But that's the world we live in. Could anyone else have told Vince McMahon to go screw himself, walked out of the company like Steve Austin and come back? No, probably not. Could Scotty 2 Hotty do that? No, Steve Austin could. You know what I mean? And I get this is obviously a different situation, but I think it's the same phenomenon, is that you're just going to get more leeway when you're a bigger star. 2, I think a salient point that can't be ignored is that this is a different regime with a different company with different decision makers. And for my money, I would say folks that handle UFC are far more, maybe it's not a savory word to use here, but more tolerant of accusations like this, because call a spade, they're not uncommon to be levied at, professional MMA fights.
Sure.
It's not. So they're maybe more experienced in dealing with these things, investigating these things, and maybe they have a different palate for tolerating them and a different procedure. And I think that may have something to do with it. It's more, I think, hey, it's Brock Lesnar. He gets more leeway. But that's my response to that part of your trouble with this. And
sure.
I understand that's not going to assuage it. I just think that's the reality.
Sure.
However unfair it is, it's a way.
I don't disagree. So I don't disagree with that, man. And I think you're right. I think there has to be a level of acceptance in the fact that this is the way that things are, that this is the way things play out. I just think that understanding needs to be universal, right? I think you're right. It is just a fact of life that the bigger you are, the bigger celebrity you are, the bigger draw you're going to be, the more money that you have, the more money that you make in this world is going to afford you a bit of leeway when it comes to the everyday struggles that everybody else may have to go through in any situation, right? That is just something that everyone else who's not in that fortunate position has to accept. I also think, though, that the opposite is also equally true. Don't expect the criticism to stop. Don't expect that criticism to stop because it's going to happen. If you're in that position, be ready to take the heat. Heavy is the head who wears the crown. So if you are going to be in that position where you get cut maybe some leeway because you're Brock Lesnar, you're going to get some heat and you're going to have to take it. So take it. Like, I agree with you that people are going to have to accept the fact that companies like this are going to make decisions because it makes money, that Brock Lesnar is a draw, right? And that despite the fact that there are some people who are going to criticize, most of them are still going to watch, right? So you make these decisions. Yeah. And you're also going to have to accept the fact that you made this decision and that some people are going to look at you and think you're a sleazy ass fucking company. And they're going to say what they're going to say. However biased their opinions may be, they're going to say them. You know what I'm saying? And those biased people need to also understand their bias. It's this whole revolving door of acceptance of what is, right? And as long as we can...
That's also my thing.
Yeah.
We're all biased.
Of course.
And like I did again, I admit my bias. So I think it doesn't make it better, but at least maybe it's more palatable to some.
Sure.
I would not, and I don't want to, in my mind, it's not me defending Brock Lesnar, but to some it's going to be defending Brock Lesnar. So let's just go use that term. I wouldn't defend Brock Lesnar like this if I didn't like him and like WWE and want to see him on my TV. That's just the way it is. But it's almost like, that's what you fight for. Everyone has a bias towards what they like and what they believe. And I don't think anyone's truly going to be unbiased. And somewhere between all of us fighting amongst each other with our own biases, maybe there's a middle ground out there. I don't know. It's just more palatable to me if everyone would admit, I fight for what I like. And if I don't like it, I probably would.
And I'll tell you this. I agree with your statement, right? And I don't think it's wrong to say that people need to become more attuned with their bias, understanding that they have one, right? And that it does affect how they see things. My whole thing is that there needs to be a caveat attached to that statement. Not that people are able to escape their bias, because you can't. My whole thing is your bias does not have to affect your actions. That's a choice, okay? That's a choice to allow your bias to affect your actions. It's what the court of law attempts to circumvent. The laws are set up in a way to where you have to prove a level of guilt or innocence, right, against some sort of crime or transgression, right? And that the letter of the law, however it's applied sometimes, right, it's supposed to draw a difference between guilt or innocence, not based on your bias, but based on whether you did something or you didn't do something based on the preponderance of the evidence. Wrong, right or wrong. And so when I look at these things...
Little wrong.
Okay.
But just clarification.
Okay.
Preponderance of the evidence is the civil standard, meaning more likely than not. To convict someone of a crime, it's beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
A higher standard for a crime.
You're
Just
right.
wanted to clarify that.
No, you're 1,000% right. I melted those two things together. You're absolutely right. That's a civil standard versus a criminal standard. Absolutely true.
There's my
lawyer tip of the day.
A little asshole nerd pop in on it.
No, it's all good. I appreciate
beautiful.
that. I appreciate that. But what I'm saying is that does not, your bias does not have to be the color of your judgment. Like it really doesn't have to. Honestly, in my opinion, you can oftentimes circumvent your bias with just being fair. That doesn't mean that your actions have to be devoid of your bias. It just means use your bias to treat everyone the same. That's my whole thing. If WWE wants to be biased with regards to how they may view someone and allegations of things that they may have been a part of, right? And they're biased with regards to how they personally view a situation, okay, I may not agree, but if you just take that bias and apply it across the board evenly to how you look at situations, at least somebody couldn't look at you and think, okay, they make these decisions that I may or may not disagree with, but then they also selectively choose how they apply these types of things. It just, to me, that's the point when I start to question you. That's when I start to question you.
So let's get a chart.
Okay.
And it'll just objectively lay out merch sales plus PLE views, and then you get a set number of lawsuits against you before they fire you, right? Something like that.
Okay.
Objectively enforce it.
Listen, if that was what they came up with, right? Whether I agreed with it or not, if that was the metric, right? That to me would speak to what I stated at the top of this conversation. Right. Did they clear him?
If they had a union, they could probably get something like that.
Probably. Thanks, Hogan, for cutting that off of the knees. But anyway, I'm sure our fans are like, can you serve us another Jack and Coke and move on from this?
Yeah.
So we're going to move on from this. But, listen, if you guys have your own opinions on this, whether they are in agreement with either one of us or whether you disagree with us, the thing that I love about this podcast and the reason why I started this podcast and then the first and only person that I thought to even invite to do this with me was Andrew Skeens, is because I believed that he and I could have a conversation about a myriad of different things. And whether we agree or we disagree, we can come to this conversation civilly. We can talk about our ideas. We can express them in a way that speaks to what it is that we're actually thinking. We can give some grace and understanding people's points of views, and even if we don't fully come to the same page, right? It's the fact that we're listening to each other and we're trying to come to a better level of understanding. So reach out to us if you have your thoughts. I would genuinely love to hear what this audience has to think about subjects like this and others.
Absolutely. I'll throw something up on Instagram, and if you want to do that, and I know there'll be a character limit, so if you have stronger thoughts, you would like to be more verbose in expressing, please send us an email.
Please.
Anything like that. We'd love to hear it, because the more perspectives we can get on it, I think the more we can reach some sort of collective understanding.
Yeah. And it helps us grow. The more perspectives we have as human beings, this is outside of wrestling, but the more perspectives that we have as human beings, the more it allows us to grow our own perspectives. And it just makes us better human beings, I believe. You know what I mean? So, yeah, please, guys, chime in and let us know what you're thinking. So the other big story of the weekend, let's totally just turn the gear the other way, back to the world of pure professional wrestling. Seth Rollins is your new world heavyweight champion. Skeener, the amount of people, and I'm just going to, listen, I am not the type of person who likes to get on the microphone and pat my own back, and I'm not going to do it now. But I will say this, the amount of people that I saw online who were like, this absolutely, positively is not a work. Seth's injured. And so we need to start planning WWE around his absence. To that I say, were you not entertained? This was entertainment at its finest. That guy, Seth Rollins, definitely knows how to play his role and play his role as that angle was written. And let me not take CM Punk out of this equation, because this dance does not happen. Actually, let's bring Gunther in too, because none of this happens if A, Gunther and Punk did not have one hell of a match. 2, this would not have happened if when Rollins' music hit, Punk did not truly emote the emotions of someone who had really fought through hell and realized right when you get to the mountaintop that you're already on the descent downward. And Seth, man, listen, I don't know if he practices ahead of time, but his crutch drop was like right on beat, and his turnaround was right on beat, and all of it was just like this orchestrated film scene. I'm not going to say the word cinema. It was abused last year, and I refuse to be a part of that past gone zeitgeist. But man, that was beautiful to watch. Skeener, you and I were there. We both saw it. What did you think when Seth Rollins' music hit after such an incredible match that was Gunther and Punk?
Wrestling perfection. It was just so well told that it's one of those that it's so good that if you didn't see it coming afterwards, you were saying, yeah, I should have seen that coming. And I think for a lot of us, like me, I was one of the ones firmly at the beginning saying, nah, he's hurt. This is real. And maybe as it went on, as can be tracked in past episodes, it started to seem more like this is where it was going and it was a work.
Yeah.
Still wasn't assured, but to me that really doesn't take away anything from the impact, because it's such a well told story, and obviously you see the crowd responding. It just works so well on so many levels. And I just think back to a month or two ago when both of us were sure they were and sure they needed to move Seth Rollins and CM Punk away from each other.
Yeah.
And now I know that, hey, that's why someone else writes this show and not because we're right where we need to be. It was perfect to give Punk the moment and take it away, like we've seen so many times before. And you're right, that look on his face after he's finally accomplished one of the things we know he's wanted, which is come back to this company and be a world champion.
Yeah.
And he did it. He climbed the mountain after a hell of a match where him and Gunther beat the heck out of one another for 30 minutes or so. And just a classic match. I loved every bit of it. Gunther bladed out of nowhere, and I loved that. Loved when that's used sparingly. Love kind of where it is now, which is may happen in a big match to just boost that moment. And then the shock of that, you see like, oh my, and just selling that.
Yeah.
But you're right. It comes down to that look from CM Punk where he's at the mountaintop. He has nothing left. And that music hits, and he knows Seth's going to come out and push him off the mountain, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Yeah.
And you have that side of it, and then you finally have Seth's vision that he's been preaching about ever since WrestleMania, essentially, to hold all the power. He has it. And playing into Raw to get a little ahead and jump there. Sure. We saw he opens the show and crows about things that I want to touch on later. But then at the end of the show, we're still there. He's put down LA Knight, who still has a gripe. CM Punk causes a disqualification, but he beats down Punk again. They even get another one over on the OTC, who comes out and is upset. OTC loses another pair of Jordans. And this faction right now is seemingly unstoppable, just like Seth has told us they would. And it's just again, wrestling perfection. Like, it's so good. Credit to everyone involved, performers, people who wrote it, people who did the camera work, catching CM Punk's face, all that. It's just, this is awesome. Can't appreciate it enough.
You listen. At this point, people need to start throwing their ones up for the tribal thief, okay? The holder of the Shula Fala is strong right now. Them two pair of Jordans. You know what? I think the next time we see him, he needs to have all four Jordans tied together like a necklace and wear
just keep getting it bigger and bigger.
Just keep making the thing bigger and bigger. So you gotta think that this is leading into a Survivor Series match, right? Like, that's where my mind keeps going. You've got the Vision, which is the name I think I heard prior to that was being kicked around. Now that he's announced it, I'm hoping that the other rumor, which in light of the fact that his wife just got new music, I'm hoping that that rumor is true, that his faction was also getting music, and that the musical change was for the same reason that Becky got a musical change, that you don't want something that the crowd's always going to sing with if you're the bad guy. And so I'm hoping they get that music change, right? But you've got Rollins, you've got the Tribal Thief, and you've got Braun Breaker, right? So you've got those three. On the other side, you've got CM Punk, you've got Roman Reigns, who they've been tied together in this story since what was the match they had where they were all in the cage together? That was last year's War Games, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, we're coming up on a year of that they've been tied together, right? So you've got Punk and Roman. Then you've got LA Knight, who has been orbiting this scene and has gotten snubbed twice, once by Rollins, once by Punk. So he's got some legitimate gripe in this, and he's gone up against Roman in the past, right? So you've got three people there. I thought that because of the way that the crowd was chanting, and because we don't really know at this point what we're doing with Sami Zayn, which we can talk about a little bit later. I'm not entirely sure if I even really want to, because I'm not super confident with what they're doing with him or Cross. But in light of that fact, and the light that the crowd was cheering for it, I could see Jey Uso, seeing as how he just teamed with Roman, as being the fourth person. And I have forever thought that Rollins' faction was getting another person. Who that is, I don't know. But that right there is a War Games match. And it will make the most sense because we haven't built anything else up at this point to, become a War Games match. And despite the fact that we got Clash in Paris and we have, Crown Jewel Perth? I think both.
Yes. Well, I mean, you keep talking.
I think both of those things are happening before Survivor Series, because Survivor Series happens in November. So
yes. I'm just not 100% on when Crown Jewel Perth is.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the fact that we're in August now, right? So we're going to be getting Clash in Paris in August. The next PLE would be in September or October.
So yes. So right now, September is clear. We have Clash in Paris August 31st.
Okay.
Crown Jewel in Perth is October 11th.
Okay.
And then over a month there between Crown Jewel and Survivor Series. So hopefully it stays that way. And for what seemingly the first time this year, as we've talked about many times, everything has a little bit of time to breathe.
Yeah. Well, I think it helps. And it gives us more time to build stories, right? But I think that's also plenty of time, and it is plenty of time for Seth Rollins and his faction division to bring on a fourth member. I mean, excluding Heyman. Obviously, he's a member, but he's not a wrestling member. But bring on a fourth person. And that fourth person on the other side could be Jey. I think to put together a War Games match that has less people than that, or has less build-up time than that, I don't know what you do. And not one that's going to really draw a crowd. The only other thing you could really think of is if you either put the MFTs in something, which I don't think you're going to do that, because they don't have War Games matches for every little storyline. There's usually, two? One for the men and one for the women?
That's how it's been recently.
Yeah. So I don't think they're going to waste a War Games match on anything other than the biggest build. That's what they've done for every other year. So I think you have a War Games squad that is building with Punk, with Roman, with LA Knight, and maybe Jey Uso. And then on the other side, you have Seth, you have Braun Breaker, you have the Tribal Thief, and you have someone else. Who that fourth person is, I genuinely have no idea. But whoever it is could greatly benefit from the strength of that faction, because the vision is red hot right now.
I see. Yeah, I see where you're going there. You're right. I'm not sure who that fourth would be right now. So you're thinking Roman, Jay, Sammy, and who?
No. I'm thinking Roman, Jay, Punk, and LA Knight.
Punk and LA Knight. Okay, I don't know where. Yeah, okay, I see that. Yeah, then I don't know who that fourth is. And you think it'll be a new member of the faction will be introduced?
Yeah,
rather than a loose alliance for one match.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a loose alliance. I feel like I heard word about a possible fourth member way back when Bronson Reed was first announced. And ever since then, I have kind of been on board with the idea that a fourth member would be a great fit. And honestly, to me, that seems like the sweet spot when it comes to a faction. And that's just a personal opinion of mine. I think 3, and I'm not including Heyman. To me, Heyman is part of the faction the way that like J.J. Dillon was with the Horsemen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's part of the Horsemen, but he's not counted in the 4. It's 4 guys and J.J. Dillon. So in my mind, 3 is less than ideal. Anything more than 4, and you run the risk of turning into like late stage NWO. Judgment Day does it well, but then again, Judgment Day does it well because you've got 2 women that are a tag team. But if you separate the women as like their own portion of Judgment Day, it's Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Dominic, and at the time it was either Priest or it was Carlito, but they did not exceed 4. I think 4 is that sweet spot. And so I kind of feel like you get a 4th member of that faction. Who that is, that's anybody's guess. But yeah, I think
I would love for it to be Austin Theory, but I don't know what the injury status is there.
Bro,
I think Theory would be kind of a great fit. Like you brought up.
His name keeps coming up. You know what I mean? His name keeps coming up. And I'll say this. He could be injured, but in Seth Rollins fashion, I haven't heard anything about his injury. I haven't heard anything about what his injury is. I haven't heard anything about the timeline of his injury. He just disappeared. Go ahead.
No,
go ahead. Go ahead, please.
And I'll take it I was just going to go ahead and take it to where we also need to go here, which was to talk about the promo that opened Raw with Seth and him clarifying as you predicted, I'm not sure on the live stream or on the show last week, that he was going to come back and say, I told 2 people about this plan. I think you only said 1, but you forgot his lovely wife, Becky Lynch. He said he told Becky and he told Paul Heyman that this injury wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we've been saying, that means he did not tell his 2 other factions. So they were in the dark. There wasn't outward demonstrative signs that annoyed anyone. However, when that was said, Braun Breaker was standing a little further away. He was hanging out on one of the ropes, kind of with some standoffish body language. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but you gotta think that character is annoyed with Seth Rollins not telling him about this plan and kind of leaving him out to dry.
Sure.
In a sense, to fight the group's battles and be the one taking all the shots and doing the dirty work while Seth was away.
Sure. I agree.
And it's not that we are geniuses and because we predicted this, we know everything. This is good storytelling.
Yes.
That we've seen a lot of time. And it's working here and it's gonna work. And now we're just kind of waiting to see how and when Braun gets fed up with all this.
Oh, for sure. Oh, and listen, here's another angle that we may not even be considering. At one point, before Seth's obvious, cash-in return that he only told his beautiful wife and his oracle about, Braun Breaker stepped up and said he's the leader now. So we know, just from a storyline perspective, right, that Braun did not say that on the behest of Seth Rollins. He did not say that as a ploy to trick anyone, because he was not made aware of this plan. So Braun, thinking that Seth was out, decided, I'm the leader now. And then Seth came back. At what point does Seth address Braun Breaker and Braun Breaker's decision to step up and claim that he's the leader when he's not the leader? Seth's the leader. Does that, I think it does that play into the long-term storytelling that is the division between Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, and the fact that those two are eventually not going to see eye to eye? I think absolutely that is the case. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. Like, no doubt in my mind. As I've been saying, this is, while it's a vehicle for Seth Rollins now, it's also hugely a vehicle to build up Braun Breaker, get him around two of the best of all time in Seth and Paul Heyman. Yeah. And we've already seen, and we talk about it weekly, but I'll keep talking about it until everyone's sick of hearing it, his growth and his comfort in figuring out who and what Braun Breaker the character is and how to portray that and how to be a star. It's coming along so fast. And you asked, when do they address this? Well, I think the story is going to serve the real life aspect of this, in that will be addressed when the company feels Braun Breaker is ready to take the step and be that guy. And you can keep that in the back because things are working really well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you can slow play it as long as you want. If you think Braun's ready sooner, address it sooner. But it's coming. It gets more and more undeniable every week that this dude has it all.
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely.
And the crowd every week, more and more. There is more and more dog barking every single.
Oh, absolutely.
It's something.
And I just love the fact.
Hope we get a little better theme for him when he really breaks away. It doesn't hit with me the way I need it to for a top.
Yeah, I
need a little more from Braun's music.
His music hits for me. I thoroughly enjoy it, but we'll see what it is that they do with that. I definitely feel like Braun Breaker is coming into his own, and it's wonderful to watch. If you notice, I thought it was hilarious in the PLE when wrestlers, they're in their groove and they're getting fired up, and then they'll do something that lets the fans know that, hey, I'm about to take this to the next level. For Braun Breaker, it's taking them straps down.
Yeah,
the fact that this guy got to such a level that he put the straps back on just to take them off again. It's those little things that you don't coach, you don't teach, you just feel them. And it's just that little thing. It was so stupid, but it just served to give the fans more of what they wanted. And the fact that you can latch onto that you're aware of that in the heat of the moment, to me, those are the types of things that separate the stars in this industry from the superstars in this industry. Being able to really tap into the audience and understand not just what the audience is feeling, but also how to give it to them. And those intangibles are just incredible to watch develop. And man, Breaker he just gets it. He really just gets it. And I genuinely hope that WWE, obviously they recognize it. I just hope that the story that they tell and they build with him allows him to continue to show range and depth and layers, so that when they strike that hot iron, that the fans are not only going to latch onto it, but there's enough gravity there to keep us in his orbit for the foreseeable future. Because it's a heavy burden to say that someone is the future of the company, right? There's so many things that hinge on you being in the future in the first place, right? That's the fans. That's how your stories are written. That's if you're able to stay healthy. There's so many things that could transpire that could take you off that track. It's nice to know that the company has faith in you like that, that you have a lot of potential, and he seems to be living up to that potential. So I just hope that all the stars continue to stay aligned for Bronson Rex Steiner, because the dude's got it. And I'm only hoping that when his cousin, if his cousin doesn't go to the NFL, that if his cousin comes to WWE, that he is half as good as Bronson is in the ring. And let me not say Bronson, because I don't want to confuse anybody. I hope he's half as good as Braun is, because Braun is hitting on all cylinders right now. And the sky is the limit for that guy, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was poignant that he took the straps down, put them up, took them back down, because the one person I can remember doing that is Kurt Angle. And it's almost like, look, that's rarefied air. I'm not saying he's Kurt Angle or he'll reach that peak, but I think some of this mirrors how an Angle came along quicker. There's no doubt about that.
No doubt.
Because Braun had his time in NXT, but it's a different system now. But in terms of being an elite athlete that has it, and then it just seemingly, the character, it just starts to click.
Yeah.
All of a sudden. And then all of a sudden, they're the guy that can do the comedy. And Kurt was a little more goofy with it than Braun is.
Sure.
But make no mistake, Braun knows what he's doing in that moments we laugh at.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what his uncle and his dad used, where they play it so straight that you're like, is this crazy dude know what he's saying? But he does. And he knows it's funny. And that's the vibe I get, is that, and he can do that because he's so legitimate. There's no chance you're not going to take him seriously, even if he does act like a total goofball.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So shout out to Braun Breaker. Shout out to Bronson Reed, the tribal thief,
yes,
the holder, the Shula Fala.
Yeah, and not to say like Bronson Reed isn't also doing all this stuff, but your eyes drawn to Braun. It is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And shout out to Seth and Paul. That faction division is doing amazing work. And yes, Braun Breaker is going to be.
So you're going to have to find a new gimmick.
Listen, I'm happy to let the gimmick go. I'm happy to let the gimmick go because the vision is here. I see it now. And, you get it. I see the vision. New gimmick. So, I get it. I see it. And I see the vision. And Braun Breaker, I think, is going to I think he's going to be that breakout star. And yes, I think you're absolutely right, dude. He knows how to turn it on and turn it off. When he did that Steiner Math promo before, I think it was some PLA they were at. He did like the pre-show or something like that. And
yeah,
he did the Steiner Math promo.
I remember catching that.
Yeah, it was great. And it wasn't exactly the same. It was a little different. But it's just the error of the Steiner Math that just brought everybody in. And everybody at least at one point has probably heard the Scott Steiner Math promo.
And I forget what it was. He made some subtle reference at the end of last week, and it's escaping me. But maybe I'll remember it before we end. But he's just good.
Yeah, dude. And I did not realize, however, Skeena, that there were so many mathematically inclined families in WWE, because it seemed like Charlotte Flair was busting out something called Flair Math that I'd never heard of before. And I was just like, since when did we get all of these Rhodes Scholars, in the WWE? But apparently we've got Rhodes Scholars in Charlotte Flair and by proxy, Alexa Bliss, which are our new women's tag team champions. I am genuinely happy to see the reception that they are getting. I think it's deserved, and I'm genuinely hoping that the titles coming off of the Judgment Day, Raquel and Roxanne, is leading to some more developments in that Judgment Day story, and hopefully a breakout star in the Judgment Day, particularly the women's side of the Judgment Day. And honestly, I hope it's Raquel. I hope that girl gets her due. Not that Roxanne doesn't deserve it, but Roxanne is just new. And I think Raquel deserves to get a little bit of praise and a little bit of a push from, what it is that she was able to accomplish there. But your thoughts on Alexa and Charlotte winning the titles, and even though they're not friends, they're floating the F word around. I'm starting hearing the F word floating around a lot and discussions around it. I don't know if they're going to make it official or not, but what are your thoughts on the Allies of Convenience? The AOC, weird.
It's been great, and we've talked about it every week, and it's been a nice, complete change of pace and shifting of gears for Charlotte, and kind of exactly what we called for in weekly episodes and in our special episode, that this has become a, we said move her away from the title. I know she's got a title. It's not a world title. It's not a singles title. It's been more about the relationship between Alexa and Charlotte. And it just continues to develop. I don't know these two women, so I can't speak for it, but it seems like these are two people that are friends off camera, that have some sort of relationship at the very least.
Sure.
And it's developed on camera in just a great way. In starting with the hesitance from Charlotte and the olive branches from Alexa, to the begrudging acceptance, to now, pretty much friend. And Charlotte was out there. While I don't think it was the best thing that's ever happened, that promo, it was a little, it just missed for me just a little bit.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean it didn't hit for someone else, because the Becky Stompers from Lyra hit with me, and it's almost like the same thing. Sometimes the goofier stuff, you just have to be the perfect audience for that.
Yeah.
But that said, I like Charlotte exploring this side of this character, which seems to be completely new.
Yeah.
And it's moving Alexa away from what we said, which is some of the spookier stuff, which is good. We needed to get that off her.
Absolutely.
When she came back, and this has accomplished all of that. Gave us a great story. Like you said, plays into the Judgment Day and where new girl Roxanne comes in, and where she stands with that faction, and with Raquel now that they have lost their titles. And I think we'll get good development there next week. But this just continues to roll on and be a great part of the weekly TV. I'll be interested to see. I'm going to assume they will return to SmackDown, but I guess we may find that out on Friday.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see where it is they go. But I thought that was the right decision at SummerSlam to put the titles on them. And, where the Judgment Day go from this, they're not going to be bad off. That's the beauty of telling great stories, is that when you tell a good enough story, people don't lose equity because they lose championships. And so the Judgment Day, I think, are going to be fine. They're telling great stories there. And, if Dom, which he retained against AJ, if Dom can retain his championship and hold on to it, there's still some equity in the Judgment Day. And I don't know who you would put the IC title on right now anyway that is as popular as Dom, unless you do some brand switching. But that's always up for a discussion as well. There is something, however, that I did want to talk to you about. And you mentioned it just a second ago. So Becky Lynch retains against Lyra Valkyria at SummerSlam. You were absolutely right. Those zip ties did come undone. I didn't see it. I didn't see it at the time. But, shout out to Lyra for attempting to continue to wrestle
She did a fantastic job selling it, to the point where I knew that I saw her hands come apart in that moment.
Yeah.
And then she did such a good job. I'm like, did they? Like, what? But yeah.
Yeah, she did an excellent job. And, Bailey shows up, and Bailey does some questionable things. I mean, it seemed very clear cut that she was out there to get her hands on Becky, and she ends up clocking Lyra with the chain. And then she stands at the side of the ring and she's like, oh, golly gee, I didn't mean to hit her. And doesn't do a single thing to break up the pin for the person she was apparently trying to hit with the chain. It just, I don't know. Lyra definitely did say to Bailey on Monday Night Raw that we're done. Don't talk to me. We ain't friends. We ain't nothing. And so,
not friends, not enemies, nothing.
We're nothing. So, which means they're absolutely going to continue to wrestle each other at least another month. So,
which absolutely means there's something. Yes.
Which absolutely means there's something. But then we get Becky Lynch, who comes out with her new theme song, which some of the fans seem to be split on. I like it. I love it. But she came out there and she's cutting to her promo, and who interrupts her but Nikki Bella. And Nikki Bella comes out and she's congratulating Becky for her win. But then she tells Becky that she's a little disappointed with her because she left the division in Becky's hands, and all Becky has done this entire time is hold other women down so that she can stay on top of her game. And she made a reference to Becky. I mean, yeah, Becky and Seth, right? Something about them being a power couple.
Yeah.
And then
Becky's always sure. Becky, I love that Becky always makes sure that it's not her husband, it's her hot husband.
It's her hot husband. But then Becky comes back with a line. And let me tell you something. Right now. There is a such thing as a pop in professional wrestling. If you never heard one, watch Monday Night Raw. Watch the promo between Becky Lynch and Nikki Bella. You will hear what I would like to refer to as a giant pop when Becky makes the remark about Nikki used to being part of a power couple, but something happened to that. What happened there? And the crowd obviously knowing who she's talking about, and the fact that he is currently active on the roster. Ironically, the crowd popped Skeens louder than I have heard in a very long time. And I thought to myself, what you gonna say, Nikki? Because I don't know how you come back from that. Like, that's somebody snapping at your mama joke. They got the whole crowd laughing. And now they're like, you got to come back harder. And I don't know what you come with. So she just got in Becky's face and was like, you should fight me. And Becky was like, yeah, except there's one thing. And then she sucker punches her in the throat and rolls out of the ring. And it just reminded me of why we all love Becky Lynch and why she is arguably the best female wrestler ever.
Yeah, I was actually shocked that line got the reaction it did. Not because it wasn't good, but just it was, that was a gigantic reaction, like you alluded to. I like this involvement. We were recently talking, I think it was on the live stream when Nikki showed up in the Papa John's promo.
Yeah.
Of like, well, what's Nikki going to do? Obviously, the Liv Morgan injury threw off some plans, but I love this because it's like, hey, you're back. Let's see if you still got it. Let's put you in here with definitely what I'd say is the best currently, if not the best ever in some regards. And let's go. Let's go to work with. And I think this is a good place for Becky to go as she moves away from Bayley and Lyra, like you said. But yeah, what a promo. It's just every week. And there's another one. I'll praise her till no one will listen anymore. Like, Becky is the man. She is what she said she is. Just a complete and total star.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, man. This is an example of a mid-card title done right. There's only but so much room at the top of the card, right? The mid-card is supposed to not just show the audience who is next in line for the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE Championship or the respective women's titles, but it's supposed to showcase the fact that this person who holds this championship is not just the second tier champion, but they're well qualified enough to be the top of the mountain champion. And it just opens up the bracket for you to have interactions and feuds with so many people that would never be at the top of the card right now. As much as anyone may like Nikki Bella, I like Nikki Bella just as much as anyone else. But I'm also not foolish enough to think that Nikki Bella, at this point in her career, at this caliber of wrestling in the women's division, is sniffing the World Heavyweight Championship. She's not smelling that WWE Women's Championship. It's not happening. But the fact that there is this mid-card championship that she can be in the title scene with just lends more credibility to that title. And it's going to be a great feud against two legends that doesn't necessarily have to take up the rarefied air of the top titles. And as great as Dom is with the IC title, when I see Becky and what they're doing with that IC scene, I genuinely wish they would just do that with all the mid-card titles. Just invest a little more time to make them feel like the stories matter around them. And when you do that, the titles will matter. But like Solo is the U.S. champ, and that U.S. title seems to have been squarely placed in the house of Fatu and is not really going anywhere outside of that anytime soon. The Intercontinental Championship is around the waist of Dom. He just defeated AJ, but that AJ feud, I think part of it was because maybe one or both of them had some sort of injury. But man, it seemed like for as fun as that feud was, they had to make it more fun because that feud seemed to just drag and nothing really of note was happening. And I don't even remember, and this could just be me and my short memory, but I don't even remember who Dom was feuding with prior to AJ.
I think the AJ stuff started kind of after WrestleMania. Right?
Yeah. So he's been feuding with AJ since WrestleMania, and they just had their match.
Well, no, he had they spun off. He wrestled Penta at Backlash, and then it's been AJ for a while, yeah. But Dom was off. He did some, he did the Worlds Collide thing. He wrestled on Worlds Collide. True. And then, or no, he didn't wrestle on Worlds Collide. He showed up there, and then, I forget who, someone from AAA showed up at Money in the Bank to wrestle him.
Yeah.
Then he went to AAA. So, I mean, the AJ thing was just kind of like a stopgap with some fun moments, which I'm fine with. Sometimes you need a lot of that. I don't need everything to meaningfully be a chapter in some great epic. And I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying this is what it was, which was a fun side diversion. And that we can get back to bigger arcs for both of them, I think.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I guess I just wonder where it goes. And I mean, there's always some options, but and this is the great part about, like we always say, being fans of pro wrestling in this era is that you don't have to wait too long because WWE is cooking up things well ahead of time, and the stories will tend to tie together in meaningful ways. That's at least what we've seen over the last few years. So, they built up enough equity with me to where I can question these things and not be questioning them from the space that I used to. Whereas, like, what is WWE doing? And it's more so of, what are they going to do next? So, we'll see where they go with this. I'm definitely interested to see what happens next with Dom. But, yeah, Naomi retained against Rhea and Io. I feel like there were more title changes. Was that it? Cody had a title change. Cody is the champion now.
Punk, Seth. Yeah,
right.
Nothing else changed hands.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, because I was really hoping we take them belts off the Wyatt Six.
I think we both were. I was excited by the prospect of Andrade and Phoenix being thrust in there, but no, seems like the Wyatt Six are going to retain. And I think at this point you have to think a lot of it is, hey, they get reactions from the live crowd. People like to be a part of that entrance and see the spectacle. And I'm sure they move merch, and sometimes that's enough, I guess. And like we've talked about, it doesn't seem like those titles and that division is currently a priority creatively, which I get sometimes. And I'm a little forgiving because there's a lot of content to produce. All of it can't be the most important, because if everything's important, nothing is. But that's a philosophical debate for another time.
Sure.
But, if I'm done, we've been done like trying to pretend it's important. So if it's not, and they get reactions and they sell merch, whatever, keep it on them. But don't expect me to keep caring.
Now, was it, I believe it might have been last week. I think it was on Ring Rust that it was brought up that the Wyatt Six or Bray Wyatt have a ride at Universal Studios?
So they're doing something like, so Universal Studios does, and I'm going to get myself in trouble because I'm speaking about this with like very cursory knowledge.
Sure.
But they usually do like some sort of theme Halloween thing they call Halloween Horror Night. And it seems like the Wyatt Six will be part of that in some way. I'm pretty sure Uncle Howdy's like kind of front and center on one of the posters that I've seen. And as you talk about this, I'll go in there and look it up.
Yeah. So
there's a haunted house.
Okay.
There is a Wyatt Six themed haunted house that will be there for Halloween Horror Night.
Yeah. See, and that's what I heard they were talking about was that. And it makes a lot of sense from a branding perspective to have them with the tag team championships.
Yeah.
In light of the fact
I
that
had forgotten about that until you brought it up. But
in light of the fact that ride is, opening during Halloween. And listen, I get it. This is just another one of those things, though, that when I see it as a wrestling fan, it just makes me look at WWE and think, damn, man, like you are just really willing to just like sell off the brand for money. Because the Wyatt Six, listen, maybe it's somebody else's cup of tea. I think we've expressed pretty clearly on this pod that they are not our cup of tea. So far be it for me to position this as if everyone thinks this way, because I'm sure they don't. But
they don't. But I will say this: if there's something that has anything to do with Bray Wyatt and horror movie, spooky stuff, and I don't like it, you ain't doing a good job with it. That's all.
Sure.
Because that's right up my alley, and I could not care less.
So let me ask you this: 2 questions. One that is wrestling related and one that is absolutely not wrestling related. So the wrestling related question, do you think that the tag team division in respect to the Wyatt Six and this Halloween Horror Night thing that they have with Universal Studios, do you think that the Wyatt Six in regards to the wrestling into the tag team division would have been served better going into Halloween Horror Nights as tag team champions, or doing Halloween Horror Nights, adding to what the Wyatt Six is in general, and then having them come back into WWE and win the championships?
Maybe this is a cop-out answer, but I don't think they're that related in terms of anything.
Okay.
I don't think them not being champion hurts the branding on this ride. And again, maybe I'm very ignorant of, and not maybe, I am very ignorant of the business side of this and seeing any numbers. And I don't know if it would or not. I just would expect it wouldn't hurt it that much. And I wouldn't see much bump from them coming back from this and doing it. I feel like it's wholly separate, but that's my perspective. I don't know enough from a business perspective, so I will default to thinking WWE and Universal have what's best for the bottom line in mind here, and that's why maybe it's not being told. Maybe that's why the best story for us as weekly wrestling fans is being told.
Okay, so just in my humble lay opinion, it seems like from Becky Lynch going into Hollywood, and by Hollywood, I mean, she's doing some roles in some smaller films that show up on Netflix, like Happy Gilmore 2 and things like that, right?
In the world, as she said.
Yeah, of course. According to her, the number one movie in the world. And then you look at pro wrestlers who go off and do reality television shows or anything like that. It seems like when you do things that are outside of the realm of pro wrestling, it always seems to me like you come back with a bit of your stock raised, and not stock raised in the sense of like the company sees you as a bigger deal. And so now they'll write you into better stuff. It's more so of how the fans tend to receive you. And then that can have an impact on how the type of reactions that you get, the type of merch sales that you get. And then those things will push the writers team in the war room to maybe consider you or consider different storylines with you moving forward. I just thought that if this was the idea to put the titles on them and that somehow there's some synergy with coinciding with this Horror Nights haunted house thing, if that's even the deal, it seems like it would have been smarter, because to do the Halloween Horror Nights be able to do a lot of advertising over that, right? Just get a lot of buzz around the Wyatt Six for doing this Universal thing and having this haunted house with Bray Wyatt themed stuff and the Wyatt Six and all this. And then have them come back and maybe you have some sort of similar, not exactly the same, but similar effect to Charlotte Flair doing the Wrestlers Tribune thing, right? Where you just have something outside that lends to a different light inside. And it just allows for the audience to see, receive, and perceive the Wyatt Six in a slightly different angle. Because prior to them winning those belts, even after they won those belts, at least from our perspective, you and our criticism was still the same feeling that we had about the Wyatt Six prior to. So how could that hurt them at all? You know what I'm saying? To try and add an additional layer that could bring in some intrigue and excitement around them. But that's just my opinion. The second question I had to ask
So the one way I could see it as a benefit, like you said, is there will be some amount, who knows how many,
sure,
of non-wrestling fans that will visit this attraction, go through this attraction, however we want to say it. Now, the opportunity comes when you try to convert that something for WWE, which is, hey, will some of these people like what they see and come watch it on WWE? And then the goal will be, when that happens during these nights, is there something that person tunes in and says, I want to see these characters in their natural environment and see what's going on? Can they give those people something entertaining enough to care about when they see it? At that point, maybe, that guy turns on and sees the Wyatt Six winning the tag titles. Maybe that's but I don't think, as people who are going to watch these shows and see these characters week to week, no matter if they've got a haunted house at Universal or not, I don't think either way really affects us.
Okay. So you think that like Charlotte's article in the Wrestling Tribune was different because that article was made for us?
I think it's different because that differed that article written in that perspective, addressing the topics it did, was different from what we have gotten before from Charlotte Flair. That's not a side that had been publicly explored or explored on WWE TV. But we know the Wyatts are spooky haunted house characters. I don't see how that changes anything about my perspective of these characters. Hopefully, I'm really wrong and we can get something else for me to enjoy out of this, and I don't have to groan and roll my eyes every time there's a tag team segment on SmackDown. I am done being hopeful of that, though, as we've said ad nauseum. But go ahead, hit me with your second.
So the second question I had, which was wholly unrelated, you said that the whole idea of the Halloween Horror Nights and stuff like that is right up your alley. And I've talked to you off air a bit, and I have kind of gleaned that based on conversations that we had. So I wanted to ask you this, and unless we have anything else that's pressing to talk about, we're pushing up on the 2-hour mark. So I felt this was an interesting way to end our broadcast today.
I think it's best because we have both Cody and Cena coming on SmackDown, that we can address what we see there next week, because there's questions to be asked about John Cena's seemingly now complete
face
turn. Yep, complete and genuine, which is not what we expected or predicted up until we went off the air with John Cena still as a complete babyface.
It was so abrupt.
I think, yes. And, you have to question, was there a pivot there? But seemingly, right now, he's back to face. And while I don't hate it, while it's not going to ruin anything for me, even for me, it was a touch unsatisfying that we just did it the way we did.
Agreed.
Right now. If we don't get further explanation on why Cody, after everyone else up until this point got in your face, told you were acting like a little twerp and being a loser, including your good friend Ron, who has
Right.
disappeared from TV.
Absolutely.
Said,
Yes.
this isn't you. This isn't John Cena. I want the real John Cena. I think even CM Punk said something to that effect.
Yep.
Why
Randy
did
said it
Cody
too.
say? Yeah. Why did Cody saying it this time cause him to see the light?
Right.
If you give me a reason I can buy, fine. If you don't, I will be a little unsatisfied. And that's all I'll say for that now. But
I agree.
we get both of them on SmackDown here in a few days. So I'm hoping that will be addressed. And then we can more fully explore that next week. I think is more appropriate platform.
And listen, I'll say this, and then I'll ask you our second question, second question, and we'll wind this down. If WWE leans a little bit more into this story arc, this storyline, John gives us a good explanation for why he made this turnaround. If you take Brock Lesnar and you tie Brock Lesnar into this idea of good versus bad John, and you have Brock come out and cut a promo on Cena at some point about the fact that, like, no, this isn't the real you. The real you is that asshole who was doing all this other stuff, right? And then you start showing me this side of this story where it's like, have we been playing this like Shakespearean dichotomy the entire time? So now we're getting good John, and good John is being confronted by all his bad angels. Like, if you tell me a real story that breaks the convention of storytelling, I'm with it. But if this turns into a thing where John comes out and he's just glad handing the fans and that he's back to good John, and it's just Brock Lesnar, the beast that he's got to conquer before he retires, I too am going to feel like, are we setting up a waste of all of this good story that we told? Because this seems like an abrupt shift from what we were doing, and not in a good way.
Yes, and let's call it how it is. There were plenty of people who said from the beginning that, and throughout this, that some of the things John Cena was doing as a heel were unsatisfying and didn't make sense. And we were kind of part of the team, and I don't think we were wrong at the time or anything was misplaced, but we were saying, no, there's a plan. Give it time. Let them cook. I'm not sure if we don't get an explanation that I know what the hell they're cooking anymore.
Yeah.
Or what.
Right.
Or if the recipe got lost halfway through. But again, we'll get Cody and Cena on SmackDown, and we'll be able to figure out hopefully more what's going on there.
I pray WWE gives us a good explanation and they give us a good show. And, you know, I have been in the mindset as of late that, you know, the WWE is going to just continue to deliver and deliver and deliver because that's what they do. And none of these story beats or choices that they've made really have shaken me from my perch of, you know, let's just wait and see. And I think I'm still in that camp. But I will say this honestly. For the first time in a very long time with WWE, I'm skeptical. I'm right skeptical. You know what I mean? Because, you know, despite everything we talked about before, despite your personal feelings about the Brock Lesnar return and all these things, the truth of the matter is at the end of the day, God, and I'm quoting this, making this daggone quote again, but it fits and people have been saying it forever. So at least this year anyway, that was not on anyone's bingo card. And sometimes a swerve can be an incredible tool. And sometimes a swerve can be a swerve. You know what I mean? It's like I wasn't wearing my seatbelt and you hit a hard bank to the left and now everything is flying around the car. Kind of swerve. And that's kind of how I left SummerSlam night 2, feeling like, what just happened in this vehicle? Why was I not alerted we were about to make this turn? I did not have my seatbelt on. And it's not like the thrilling kind of swerve, but like, where are we right now? And I think it all started Friday. That sudden turn by Cena felt weird. You know what I mean? It felt out of place. And then to pivot the way we're pivoting now, and then Lesnar showing up and all the stuff we talked about before, right? I'm trying to just encapsulate that in what it is, how I feel about it, and then set that to the side and look at it from a storytelling perspective. I'm just looking at it from a storytelling perspective.
I was just going to and the last thing I'll say on it, and I'll keep it with the analogy. I hope this turn, this swerve they made in this car, they knew that this was the planned route and the road they were going to go down the whole time. And they didn't have to swerve to here at the last minute because they figured out Dwayne Road was closed. You know what I mean?
Sure. If that's listen, I will agree with you there. If this was the plan all along, then it will make me feel a little bit better about the fact that like I just bounced off the damn windshield with this turn. Because if this was the plan, then I can
faith in where it's going.
Yeah, that's the point, right? Is that I will have more faith in where it's going, even though I can't see it right now. I have been in this position before where I couldn't see exactly where they were going. But like you said, I'd have more faith in where it is that they're going. But boy, they're going to have to really like make it clear on SmackDown. Because this is the first time in a long time where I felt like I'm not entirely sure I know what's happening here. And it seems kind of like they're making some calls on the fly. But anyway.
I've still got trust because if nothing else, WWE has handled the top of the card very well for the past
Yes, they have.
So
I still have that trust too. I haven't lost that trust. And I think what it is, Skeener, is I'm leaning heavy on that trust right now because it's out of my head because my head is having a hard time making sense of this. So I'm having faith that the WWE has got this at hand. And I just hope that I am rewarded for that faith with good storytelling, but we will see. The second question I had to ask you, which was unrelated, but related to what we were talking about. So we are in August now. September is my mom's birthday month. And to anybody else who has birthdays in September, happy birthday. That will be coming up soon. But aside from that, September is just the month that a lot of kids dread because it's right in the middle of going back to school. So then we skip September and we go to October. October is my birth month and it's my favorite time of the year. It's fall. I love Halloween. I have a Halloween tradition, and that is to watch some sort of slasher Halloween film on Halloween. Those are just my faves. That's what I like. What is it that you find fun to do on Halloween, Skeens? And I know we're a little early and this ain't no Halloween special, but in light of the fact that we were talking about the Wyatt Six and what they've got going on at Universal, I was just curious. It just popped into my mind and I wanted to know. What is it that you, Andrew Skeens, like to do around Halloween?
This is a good question. And you're going to be disappointed with the answer. But the true answer is Halloween, like most other holidays for me, is just a day. Okay. It's just a season. It's the time of the year. I don't really do too much different.
Yeah.
I'll watch a little more horror in October than I will the rest of the year.
Sure.
But, I'm still watching horror. Like right now I'm going through the Hellraiser series again.
Okay.
But it's nice that everyone else is a little more in the spooky horror spirit that I am in more.
I get that.
And I've never really been a costume guy. I don't think I've worn a costume since the last time I trick-or-treated, which would have been like, age 12 or 13 or something. So, and that's just because I'm not artistically inclined enough to do things that would be up to my standard. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, I'm like, store-bought costume is not good enough, but also I can't make anything myself. I'm just not good at that. So, yeah, it's a weird spot. Simple answer is I just do what I do every day.
No, I hear you, dude.
It's a little more spooky, I guess.
I hear you. And listen,
spirit.
I enjoy Halloween. Honestly, I enjoy Halloween primarily the same way and in the same reason that you do. Which is I like the fact that if you have cable, which I don't, but if you do, when I did have cable, AMC showed scary movies for the entire month of October. And that was just always fun to kind of flip through to AMC and just see something random and just kind of sit down and watch it if you're feeling so inclined. But like we don't put tinsel on the house and we don't put jack-o'-lanterns and stuff up. And sometimes I will have some candy for the kids, but last year we didn't. And my wife, she's not into it at all. So it's not even about like, hey, it's Halloween, hun. Let's just order a pizza and watch a scary movie. She's like, nah, I'll pass. So it's really just kind of been a me thing. I will usually throw on like a Friday the 13th or a Nightmare on Elm Street. Those are just my jams. And yeah, so I wouldn't be the type of person that's like, oh man, Halloween's coming up. Let's fly out to Universal Studios and go to the Wyatt 6 haunted house thing because I'm so interested.
Now, I will say this year, my wife has been pushing me she wants to go to Salem and get real witchy around Halloween time. So we'll see if this is the year we do that. And I think that would kind of be so.
You have fun with that. You let me know how that goes. And if you don't come back, we will have an episode in your memory because this is the Lariat Lounge and Skeens is co-host on the Lariat Lounge. And we would miss him a whole lot if he went to Salem and disappeared.
10 bell salute, but the show must go on.
The show must go on. But you're going to come back just like all of our fans are going to come back. They're going to come back and check out another episode of the Lariat Lounge. At least I hope you do, because we enjoy having you guys here. It's the reason why we show up each week. It's the reason why we started Lariat Lounge Live, so that we can interact with you guys more often and in a much more personal fashion when we're enjoying the PLEs that we enjoy. So we appreciate everyone that came out this weekend. I looked on YouTube after we finished the second live stream, and it was very difficult to see who was participating at any given time, just based on, what YouTube allows you to see. But it did give me an idea of the participant count during the live stream, because as soon as the live stream ends, I can see the amount of views on the video.
Yeah, that's what I could see too.
Yeah. And last time I checked, I believe it was like Sunday evening, or not Sunday evening, but maybe Monday afternoon. Mm-hmm. It looked like we had between 62 and 65 between each show. So I think the first Saturday, I think we had like 62 concurrent, and Sunday we had 65.
That's up from when I saw it, because must have had some people go back and view it too, because when I looked Saturday night, I saw 34.
That's what I saw too. That's what I saw as well. So it's possible that, depending on, because we went live, so it's possible that depending on where people watch from, time zone wise, could affect how those numbers came in. And it's also, like you said, it could be some people watching video on demand, which is a huge thank you, because Lord knows that's a 4-hour stream each time.
Absolutely. We appreciate everyone that did watch, did participate, will watch, will participate in the future. It really is a blast. Please come out and be part of it. I had, again, one of the best times I've ever had watching the PLE. And knowing that that's going to continue is a great source of, I don't want to say hope, not hope, but it's something to look forward to. Yeah, for sure. Already look forward to these PLEs, and now I do even more.
It's a source of, for me, it's a source of happiness. It's a source of joy.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it, Skeens. And I'm glad that the viewers enjoyed it enough to want to come out and sit there and listen to us live and interact. It was really awesome. Skeens, please tell our friends one more time where they can interact with us whenever they want to.
We're coming at you once a week, every week, at least that once. All your podcast platforms, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. We're up there. You can also find us over on Instagram at the Lariat Lounge Podcast, throwing up posts every time a new episode comes out, so you'll be notified. Stories going up all the time with polls, questions. Going to put one up there asking for you all to give us your thoughts, how you feel about Brock Lesnar returning to WWE. So want everyone to interact there. As always, if social media isn't your thing or got something longer or anything else, maybe some pictures, videos, anything like that you want to send us, we're at the Lariat Lounge at gmail.com. We love hearing from you. We want to keep building this community. The doors to this lounge are always open, and everyone's always welcome.
Absolutely, guys. We really do appreciate you hanging out with us on another week, another episode, another edition of the Lariat Lounge. Please come back and check us out next week. We'll be following up on all the good things that happened on SmackDown and on Raw. So from your host, Everson Godfrey, co-host Andrew Skeens, this has been another edition of the Lariat Lounge. Please watch yourself on the way out.